Hey everyone, Ryan Noonan here from Betsperts Golf for our first look at the 2026 Tour Championship East Lake Golf Club, Atlanta. The end of the playoffs, the end of the normal golf season. Coming off of, I think, a very interesting Sunday for Wyndham Clark and Wyndham Clark ticket holders, which there were a lot of. I did not know how public of a pick Wyndham Clark was. So shout out to us. By us, I mean a lot of us. The entirety of the Betsperts Golf team here, including Pat Mayo, extension of the family. Yeah, and a lot. So shout out to everyone for having that one dialed in. And good for Wyndham Clark. It felt like a tournament no one wanted to win on Sunday. It was very much there for the taking. Wyndham could not miss on Saturday and couldn't find water, fell out of a boat for chunks of time on Sunday there. Just nothing dropping. But no one really played particularly good golf to come and get it. Like even the guys that were kind of threatening, Colin Morikawa, Patrick Cantley, Rory for, I guess, a little bit. And then again at the end, but Rory didn't play particularly well. It was very much there for the taking. And Gary Woodland. Woodland played really good. All-time one of us moment for Woodland there on the 9th tee box to stone top a drive into a creek that I think is there for aesthetics only, not a water hazard penalty that typically comes into play. But Gary found it off the tee, which is fascinating. So let's get into a little bit of what we got going on this week. Again, this is the end. We have a 30-man, small, no-cut field, obviously, and it is obviously a loaded field with when you get down to 30. These players have all earned themselves tickets to 2027 major championships, 2-year exemption for anyone that needed it, which is not often the case, but occasionally by making their way to the East Lake. So, a cool thing for those guys, and obviously a just pile of cash to be had here for these guys this week. So, yay for them. But let's make some money off of them if we can. I want to get into actually I think the more fascinating than any year prior, especially the last handful of years, is the Player of the Year discussion. I think that's really interesting. Again, it'd be more fun if we could bet on it. If that was like a, NFL MVP, and maybe you start to see even, I think, just the dialogue around it shifting with Brian Rolapp, and, they need to have like an awards night. We need to kind of blow up the awards because we're talking about Player of the Year. There's been a lot of Player of the Year discussion in even in the mainstream media on the golf side, for the last couple of weeks. And like the announcements just like, it's just a random day in like late December before the season starts. It's like, oh yeah, Scotty Scheffler was the Player of the Year. There's no like hubbub. There's no real pomp and circumstance around the announcements. They should do something. You should make it an event. You should have a Rookie of the Year. You should have comeback Player of the Year. Different things that I think that they need to really lean into that. And I think you see that with the roll-up here over the next couple of years, because typically no one's really cared who's been PGA Tour Player of the Year. But I think there are some, great options. If you're looking outside of Scotty, if you're doing, data analysis and you're leaning on strokes gained or, I don't know, top 5, top 10 rates. Scotty only has 2 wins, but he's obviously been miles above everybody. We see that pretty quickly. We start to look at, anything from a strokes gain standpoint. So kind of an interesting discussion. I can see here's just last 6 months, there's Scotty. But if we separate and we go 2026 strokes gained, the entirety of the year, Roy's at 50 rounds, solid 6 events fewer than Scotty's played. The next guy is Fitz on the strokes gained total ledger here, and he's gaining a stroke less per round on average than Scotty is. So hard to deviate from that. But again, I think maybe there's some consequences for what happens in East Lake in terms of the player of the year, which is interesting. I think Matthew Fitzpatrick has kind of been not talked about in the last couple of weeks, but I think a solid Fitzpatrick appearance at East Lake or a Fitzpatrick win would get him right there. Wyndham Clark deserves to be in the mix. He's got 3 wins. 50-man playoff at the BMW. It's a big win. It's a great field. He won the U.S. Open. Big win, right? One of the more iconic wins you can have in a season. And then he went out and threw a 60 up on Sunday at Craig Ranch to win there. Obviously not an event that means a lot or holds a lot of gravitas in the space, but it's a win regardless. And, winning golf tournaments is hard. There's some guys on this list that we're looking at here that routinely don't win golf tournaments year after year, though they are good golfers and competitive, right? Like, it just shows that closing is hard. Siwoo's had a great year. He has not won a golf tournament and has T5'd a lot, but like, from like an actually like mixed standpoint, like how often is he mixing on Sunday? It's less than that. He obviously gave Scotty one early in the season. He's been in contention a bunch of top 10s. Tommy, same thing. Like, how often has Tommy actually been in contention late on Sunday this year? Not often. Sam Burns has been more than the others. Hasn't closed. Cantley warming up now, which is interesting. Ludwig, same thing. I mean, Cam's obviously got a couple of wins. We know Goddard's got some wins. Xander's mixed a bunch early, but has, kind of been scuffling. Henley's got the win. But not really like Henley, Xander, not really in contention for player of the year. Ludwig not in contention for player of the year. Cantley not. But yeah, it's tough. Winning's hard. And I think, it's leaning on a binary result like that. Yes, no, win, no is tough because one guy wins every week. But at the same time, like, winning is what this is all about, right? Like, you got to win. So it's an interesting discussion. I think Scotty deserves to be player of the year. Again, there's a player element to this too, right? So like, how does is the Wyndham thought in terms of his popularity, which is still so weird and fascinating to me. I don't know what to make of that. But like, do the players hold that in the same regard that maybe some of the media does? We're quick to forgive and forget in some instances, but for some reason, I don't know, people don't like Wyndham and we don't want to forget. So I don't know. It's weird. It's bizarre to me, but I'm interested to see what that looks like. I'm interested to see. And again, what does that announcement even look like? Is it just like this, oh, by the way, here's the player of the year? We start to like build some, some real programming around it. I think that would be interesting. I think you start to see more of that from the PGA Tour, obviously with, rollout coming from the NFL and knowing that like the NFL does a fantastic job of never leaving our consciousness. It's, the schedule itself, the way the offseason rolls out, like you're never very far removed from football news at this point. Like you really aren't. And I know that I'm in it in a different way with, different things that I'm responsible for. But at the same time, I think even the casual football fan, like football never really goes out of our mind. And like golf kind of holds that in terms of the schedule, right? Like they are going to change and shift the schedule early in the season to kind of not run into football anymore in January as much. But in terms of like the fall swing, and how that's going to matter and play itself out over the next few years in terms of the different tours. Golf is, I think, going to have a similar vibe and where it really continues to never leave our consciousness if you are a golf fan, right? If you are casually following professional golf, it's going to kind of stay in the mix as it always has. I think they're going to do hopefully a better job of maybe turn the dials on some of those things in the fall where the bigger guys stay in because we're talking about these types of things post team event, right? Post that September team event, how can that play itself out? So hard for me to not think Scotty Scheffler is the player of the year, but I know that's just probably the data side, but I think that there's real consequences in what happens in East Lake. The other thing that's interesting before we get into East Lake handicapping is the President's Cup. President's Cup, obviously the bastard stepchild of the Ryder Cup in a way. It does not have, again, the national attention that the Ryder Cup gets for a multitude of reasons, just mainly being far less competitive. From an event standpoint, I love that it's 4 days. Personally, like I like that we get more golf. This year, obviously, if you've been watching or hanging out with us at all, I got the Medinah hat on. Means a little bit more for me locally. Like Medinah is less than a mile down the road and across the street. For me, my 18-year-old's caddied there for the last 3 years. I can't really go anywhere without driving by. If I'm going to go to the city, I'm going to go to my in-laws. I'm driving by. My son can drop himself off now, but in the past, I've had to drive him to the club and drop him off every day. So I've been waiting for this Medinah one for a number of years. So I'm excited that it's almost here. But yeah, because it's less competitive, the international team, though I will say probably feels a more competitive roster this year than they've had in the last handful of years. Still, the U.S. is running out of buzzsaw to the point where we're having this dialogue around how should the U.S. captain and how should USA Golf in general treat the President's Cup in terms of preparation for the Ryder Cup. Should we be using this as almost a staging, training, reps type of event for players that we assume will be part of team competitions for the next 10, 15, 20 years, maybe, right? So Brant Snedeker's our captain on the U.S. side. Snedeker, multiple team events himself. It's just an interesting thought process because, these guys don't get a lot of opportunities to be the captain. It's not like a thing where you're, maybe that's the thing they should have is maybe, a guy gets a President's Cup and a Ryder Cup. Like should maybe kind of have that thought where if that was the case, if Sneds knew that, hey, I'm trying to work towards this team that I get in 27 in Ireland, then maybe I need to leverage my 26 President's Cup captaincy to build some rapport, get some guys on that team that I think are going to be there and kind of use it as a stepping stone versus just like, hey, I get this one captaincy. I have this responsibility. I want to win, but I don't want to be the one President's Cup captain that didn't get a dub because, it's been 30 years or whatever. It's been an insane run of dominance. So it's just an interesting thing here, whereas, he's also, still playing, right? Sned's had a decent year. We're not having Sned's should he pick himself conversations like we did last year with Keegan, but at the same time, like he's still, for lack of a better term, a PGA Tour mule. He's a back end guy that's still out here on tour, competing with these guys week in and week out. And, has, I think, an appreciation for guys that have grinded to earn themselves standing and they've earned themselves consideration. So I think it's hard for a guy like Sneds who's still really actively competitive. And again, like I understand what I'm saying by competitive, but look, he won a tour event this year. He's been in contention for some other random events, right? So he's still on tour. He's still playing golf. So I think he has a different level of appreciation for these guys that are out there grinding and getting it done all the time or kind of keeping themselves in the mix. So I think it's hard for someone like that to want to bypass some of the guys that are towards the top of the team standings for the young guns that we want to see, right? Where it's easy for us to be like, yeah, why in the world would you not put Jackson Koivu on this team? We've seen some glimpses from Michael Thorbjornsen and Michael Brennan, who are these young, highly touted prospects in a way that, won a bunch in college, have come out and have now all won on tour in the last couple of months. Should we be having a longer view than just, what's going on right now and what the team standings say, right? Like that's a tricky proposition for Sneds. So I'm kind of fascinated to see what happens here in the next couple of weeks, but we are now locked into our top six. Any six would obviously be picked anyway. I don't think you would make a case against any of them, even if Wyndham didn't win. yesterday. Wyndham would be on this team if he was 7th on the points list and has a U.S. Open and 2 wins. He'd be on this team. But Scotty, Cam Young, Wyndham Clark, Sam Burns, Russell Henley, Colin Morikawa, all on the team, locked in now after the BMW via points. Now we get 6 captain's picks. And yeah, what happens here is, I think, really interesting. Your next few guys up, Ben Griffin falls out of being locked in via points with the win for Wyndham Clark. Goddard's on this team. He's 7th, first guy, wins, no doubt. Goddard's on this team. BG, I'm not sure. Xander Schauffele on this team. Cannot imagine a scenario where you're not like, hey, I'm trying to. Either way, like you're putting Xander's on the team. He's on the team for sure. I think the next lock is Justin Thomas. I think Justin Thomas is on this team again. A lot of the team mojo. I think that we saw it at Bethpage. Sunday singles. There's just JT's played well enough this year. He's got the history. There's just no way Sneds is leaving him off this team. The conversations now when you're looking at that kind of puts 3 spots loosely up for grabs, right? If you want to say Goddard up is 7, Xander's 8, JT's 9. So 10, 11, 12 up for grabs. Ben Griffin, JJ Spawn. I think are interesting conversations. Look, both had okay years. They're up here inside the top 10 because this is a 2-year rolling average, and both of them had fantastic 2025s. And they've both played well at times this year, right? Like they both have had little hiccups. BG struggled off the tee, spraying it a handful of times. Putter hasn't been as hot as last year. Spawn kind of mixed bag, same thing. Putter hasn't been as hot, but like been competitive, has a win. Interested to see what happens with those picks, but I think theoretically you have 3 picks up for grabs. One that's fascinating for me is Patrick Cantlay. Playing really, really well right now, which, that you would think would matter, right? He's behind Jacob Bridgman, but Bridgman's, I guess he's kind of come back to life a little bit, but the summer was rough for Bridgman after a really nice fall. So I don't think Bridgman is on this team. He's obviously in consideration in the sense that he's 12th on the points list, but I would be surprised I have a scenario where Jacob Bridgman is on the team. It is, and again, I would not be surprised at all if it is these top 11 in Cantlay. And that leaves the young guys off the team. That leaves Jackson Koiven off the team. That leaves Akshay. How far down the list do you want to go? Like Thor's pretty far down the list. Brennan's pretty far down the list. I genuinely don't think they're in consideration at this point. I mean, I think that they're in consideration. I think it would be very surprising for kind of what feels to me like an old school guy in Sneds going way off of the points list to take someone like Thor or Brennan. Koiven, there's a little bit more there, right? We have multiple instances in the last handful of years of Sneds playing, practice rounds and, getting paired with Koiven. That happens, I think, last year at the Memorial. It happened this year. I think they played together at the Wyndham. So the Patrick Cantlay one's interesting to me because, if he locks in and does it come down to, 3 spots for 4 guys with Ben Griffin, JJ Spawn, Patrick Cantlay, and Jackson Koiven? I kind of feel like that's what it is. I wish Akshay would have gone and made it a little easier and grabbed this because Akshay's another guy that's young and has shown enough. Like, you thought he was a lock in the President's Cup when he won Bay Hill, but it hasn't been a great rest of the year for Akshay. So it is kind of a tough call. And you can make the case that Ben Griffin, JJ Spawn, and Patrick Cantlay all deserve to be on that team, and at least one's probably left off. But I understand why Koiven gets left off this team. I don't agree with why Koiven would get left off this team. I think it's a mistake. I think it's short-sighted. It makes all the sense in the world. It's all the reasons we've heard and discussed of why you would take him. Get team reps on U.S. soil in a scenario where you probably don't need him to win. You probably don't need him to play particularly well. You want him to get reps around these guys. You want him to get team reps. And he has team experience, right? Like match play and all that stuff is just way more prevalent on the collegiate level. And he's just coming off of that, right? So, I just think it's a mistake when it's very likely that he's on that team going to Adair Manor next year in Ireland for the Ryder Cup. You should get him some home soil reps, but yeah, I'm interested to see what happens there. So it's enough President's Cup talk today. I'm probably, again, admittedly more excited about it than most are, right? Comes in the middle of football season, but we'll see. All right, Tour Championship, East Lake. Massive renovation 2 years ago by Andrew Green. Literally, the entire thing was ripped up and redone. We have Zoysia fairways still. Bermuda everywhere else. It's going to be common here down in the southeast. They're supposedly growing the rough out a little bit more. So that's, I think, a good choice because last year this place played as easy as it's ever played. So I don't think that was their intention when they did the redesign. I don't think it was like, hey, let's make this play easier for the loaded 30-man field that we get once a year. So it did play significantly easier. So again, another run of these long par 70s, which is, with Detroit mixing in now as a long par 70. We don't get a lot of long par 70s or par 70s at all in the regular season, early in the season, but now we're like backloaded with all these long par 70s. So that helps. Guys that have been playing well of late and guys that are trending, I think, is something we want to look at because you have obviously a mix of long par fours. You lose the two extra par fives and replace them with typically long par fours. You also have a mix of very long par threes here. And in general, we have more increase in approach shots from over 200 yards. And we'll kind of go into that here a little bit here too. So Bermuda everywhere. Long Bermuda green. Zoysia fairways. So what we had last week, a little spongier. We had the Zoysia 2 weeks ago in Memphis as well. So, players like hitting off of that Zoysia fairways. Driver heavy. Though there is a missed fairway penalty because of the Bermuda rough. Bermuda just a little bit more unpredictable. And I think they're going to grow it out longer than this 3.5. So that could be interesting, especially when you have some fairly narrow fairways and we're asking guys to hit driver repeatedly. It brings it a little bit more variance. And again, it didn't happen last year. So I'm interested to see if the longer rough is real and if it plays that way. Everything else is, fairly on the easy side. And again, when you have, guys playing on average like 2 strokes under par, that's what's going to happen. Putting very easy. Now, I'm not sure if that's just these are new pure greens, but the putting numbers the last couple of years have been trending up. Just make rates up, from all the ranges. 3-putt rates down. All that's a little bit, trending to easier putters. So a spot where you can grab maybe some good ball striking and some team no putt guys and feel pretty good about it. So you can see everything on the putting side is fairly easy. Let's go into a little bit more of the details here. You can see, off the tee, usage trended down a little bit last year, but it's still above PGA Tour average. You saw fewer drives go 320 plus. You saw the accuracy dip. So guys did sacrifice a little bit to keep it in play. But again, you still saw driver usage above PGA Tour average. Good drive percentage. Again, guys keeping themselves in play quite often. It began kind of right around the PGA Tour average because, again, just hard to hit these greens if you are in the rough. So you can see overall greens and reg percentage kind of right in line with the PGA Tour average event. Greens and reg from the fairway, really high. And again, a little bit harder than it had been pre-reno, right? These are the 2 pre-reno years, 24, 25, but still above PGA Tour average. What's got a little bit more difficult, especially it was last year, that greens and reg from the rough. And again, I would expect it to kind of be in this range based on what we're hearing from the rough this year. So fairway bunker, a little less penal last year. So just again, maybe a second year reno. Guys come back after having a little bit of reps in 24 and go, hey, I know how I want to play this year. I think we saw that in some of the gaps in the 24 to 25 numbers. So more so than I would typically say. I'm okay leaning a little bit more on what happened on the 2025 year, because guys have had that year rep of what they saw in 24. When you come here and you play year after year, you come here in 24, you're seeing it for the first time. You're trying to figure out what's playing different from the years past. And then you come in 2025 and you're like, hey, I got a better sense of what I would do different. I think that played itself out and why we see some different gaps. Approach shot distribution. You see a little bit longer than average. Everything up here kind of flat. Where you really get into things is right here. You see the fairway jumper, just in general, 200 plus yard shots, 34% of their approach shots here, and that includes the par threes, 34%. So significantly above where it had been here in the past and significantly above a PGA Tour average event. So we're just getting a lot of long approach shots. Which is interesting. You don't have as many in that 150 to 200 range. It's again where we got a lot, but that's kind of in general below tour average across the board last year. So interesting mix. Around the green stuff, we're getting a lot of more shaved runoffs since the renovation. You can see here, pre-reno, 21, 22, 23-ish, 25 or so % of the shots were coming from short grass around the green. With the renovation, just more natural shaved runoffs into the bunkering, around the green, less of that thick rough. Around the green, you're seeing a real spike in short grass. So if you are looking at around the green play this week, I'd lean a little bit more on the short grass stuff than the rough. In this, I typically like to look at around the green proximity from short grass. Again, reminder, if you're looking at scrambling is tying in putting. And I don't know. I'm not sure why. It's just not a metric that I typically like to look at. I'm not saying I'm right by not looking at that often, but I like to isolate the two elements of it. I like to look at around the green play, and then I want to look at putting. Yeah, you could hit a really poor chip and bury a long putt, and that helps your scrambling rate, but not super stable and not very predictive. And if you're just a really good putter, you're going to save yourself with scrambling a bunch. And ideally, if you're good around the green player, you can help yourself with scrambling as well. I just like to isolate the stats personally. So to each their own, but we got all the data here, so you can do whatever you like. Putting, you'll see some of the putting ranges. You can see, 3-putt avoidance way down, approach putting way down, keeping yourself in play, 3 putts, 1 putt rates up, average made distance in total putts made way up. So guys are making longer putts, birdie putts on average, everything getting a little bit easier there on the putting side. You see scoring, par 70 last year played over two strokes under par, minus 2.18. Again, I don't think by design. I don't think that they're necessarily happy about that. So maybe there's a response here with the rough this year that it makes that a little bit harder. You can see birdie rate post-reno up from years past. So yeah, interested to see how they respond there. Par threes, again, not super difficult, but longer par threes. Birdie rate kind of in line with PGA Tour average. But you got these par fours that are playing under par, and par fives are easy. Only 2 of them, but guys are making birdie at a 2 out of 3 times. This is pretty wild. Tommy was your winner last year, as we know. Again, we also last year went away. You see these scores. Last year we went away from the staggered start, which is, I think, great. Makes this year a little bit more, this event a little bit more interesting. We're going to have a big picture discussion on, is this a great way to crown a champion? I think we all know the answer is no, and I think that's why they're reimagining the playoffs, and we'll see whatever that happens for now. But again, for now, we're just trying to handicap an event as if it's a normal event. You can see, again, context is there's only 30 guys here, but around the green play didn't typically lead us to many champions last year. So you could very much not get it done around the green. And if you were ball striking and the putter was decent, you were mixing. So personally, this I think is, someone it's giving us direction on how to build, models and what stats to be looking at this week. So I don't think we need to be looking too much at some of the around the green play. So, let's just see from an average standpoint, see where we really separated. Tommy kind of separated everywhere. He didn't really get it done much off the tee. Putted his face off. That'll do it pretty much any week for the most part. But you see a lot of good approach play for the guys at the top. Scotty did it a little bit differently. He did scramble pretty well. Played well tee to green, but ball striking wasn't quite as crisp as it typically is. But again, just trying to get a sense of what mattered in the past. So that's, previous leaderboards. And again, you can look at other previous leaderboards, but just a reminder, 24, 25 are post-reno, and 25 was the change in how we're scoring this thing. So that's why, again, you get the kind of the wonky numbers. So also want to remind you, get a subscription. If you are not currently subscribed to Betsperts Golf and you do not have access to our Discord, where we put out all of our official plays, and again, great community that's, betting all tours, anything that you could bet, any market you could bet, all that's going down in the Discord. Clicking this, you can find ways to get a free subscription for a full year. Again, now we're coming up to the tail end of the year. It's a great way to lock in 2027. Rebet's a great offer. If Rebet's in your state, you can use promo code BSG, deposit $10. They'll first deposit match it up to 100. So if you like Rebet or have heard of it and want to get down, deposit 100, you'll get $200 to bet. Check that out. Got to use promo code BSG when you sign up. This is an article that you can find on the site if you go to betspertsgolf.com. It walks you through the directions, even links you out to the site to click into there. Real easy. You guys should check that out for sure. So let's look at the odds. I don't love the odds. And again, we have a small field, no cut, 30-man field. The odds aren't going to be great. Odds board, courtesy of our friends over at SharpStack, 4for4. Great odds boards, great EV tool, arbitrage tool, middle, pick'em tool if you want to grind, prize picks, odds screens, NFL futures. Lots of great stuff in here. So let's look here, PGA. Let's find Tour Championship, and we're going to find the Tour Championship winner. Scotty at 350 is your best number. Rory there at 950, which is interesting. Obviously, great East Lake history pre-reno. Xander 15-1. Ludwig as high as 17 and change on Kyle Shee. Cam Young at 18. Burns, Wyndham, all at 18. And Tommy, Cantley, Fitz, and Colin, all kind of right around 20. Gotterup, Siwoo, Vic, Henley, all 30 or shorter. And then you get down into Decky, Spawn, Tom Kim, Bobby Mack. Just a big jump from a couple of guys at 30 into the guys that are all the way down right around 50. So shop around here on a Monday morning. It's tough. Like, these are not great prices necessarily, but again, what are you going to get? It's a 30-man field. It's going to be tough. Like, Scotty feels relatively fair compared to where he is in, bigger fields. Right. So, doesn't mean I'm doing that. It's not a style that I like to do often, especially now when the field's loaded, but, it's a tough odds board. So shop around on a Monday morning. But good week again. I think just like last week was, if you happen to have access to each ways, it's a good week for each ways. Again, you only have 30 guys in the field, so they're not making each way adjustments to price in the fact that there are fewer outs in terms of spots for your guys to miss the each way. So like if you got like someone that you think is going to mix, buy those positions. I think it's a really nice spot for that this week. I know there aren't a lot of options that have that domestically, Rivers, Bet365, And I know limits can be tough there, depending on what you're staking in the outright market. So shop around. I do think it's a good each way week, in my opinion. So, that's I think that's it. Again, head over to Betsperts Golf if you want to read Ron's preview. Eastlake, he's got all the details that you would ever need. History on Eastlake, all the stuff is in here, betspertsgolf.com. And again, if you have not subscribed, take advantage. It's a great deal. And again, I think we're probably really too low pricing wise already. If you paid full price, but you can get it for $10, no strings, not $10. And then you got this additional charge or whatever, like it's $10 and it's $10 for a full 12 months after you buy. So check it out. Let us know if you have any questions. Subscribe to the channel too, Betsperts Golf on YouTube, Betsperts Golf podcast form, wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate that as well. Take advantage of the free content that we have here. We continue on in the off season. We'll not continue on with the Monday show. Again, I do a lot of football work. Andy does a lot of football work as well for 4for4, our other properties. Move the Line, it's my NFL podcast. Andy has the deep dive, so football gets a little bit in the way on a Monday. But Andy and I will still do either a Tuesday or Wednesday betting show. I think last year in the fall, we did our betting show on Wednesdays. So we'll still be on the YouTube channel, still be in the podcast in the fall. If there's an event, we'll be there. We'll probably be there without it either way. So continue to subscribe. We're not going away. So appreciate in the chat here. I kind of agree, Clive. I don't think Clark is popular with other pros. I think that's maybe both true and also maybe not as much as we think maybe. But we'll see. We're going to find out. Especially if he's in the mix again or takes down Eastlake. And again, it's a great fit for him. We'll find out. Of course, we'll be playing firm and fast like last week. Yeah. Agree. They have a hard time getting this place firm, but we'll see. And again, I want to see the rough longer, and we'll go from there. I had Clark and win last week, so good. All over the board, feels good. Let's get a win. I got 7 outrights on the year. Pre-flop, got some other live hedges, which has been nice. Thor, Brennan, the last couple of weeks that saved the week and made those profitable weeks. So it's been a really good year. I've had a lot of other times mixing, and would love to get one. Finishing strong, growing that bankroll here as we head into the fall feels really good. So I appreciate the support as always. Appreciate everyone hanging out. Again, hit that subscribe before you take off and head over to betspertsgolf.com. Take advantage of that